I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits.
Welcome to WTC Squadcast, a podcast focusing on international matters, tournaments, communities, and the World Team Championship. The WTC is a proud partner of the T-Sports Network, Best Coast Pairings, and is sponsored by The Army Painter. If you'd like to support the podcast and the WTC, please visit our Patreon at www.patreon.com/WTC Squadcast. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the WTC Squadcast, Into the Squad. In this podcast we get a deeper insight into the specific teams that attend the WTC, how do their teams work, how do they form their teams, how does the captaincy transfer. And it's Işık again as always, and today we have the captain of Team Austria, Andreas, with me, and we are going to learn how Team Austria works. Welcome, Andreas, to the podcast.
Yeah, hi there. Hi to the crew who's listening right now. My name is Andreas, and like Işık said, I'm the captain of Team Austria now for some years because of COVID and so on. And yeah, nice to be here and nice to talk to you.
Mike, can you introduce a bit about yourself to start with?
Yeah, obviously. I'm 29 years old. I play now Warhammer 40k for around 20 years or something like this. I started in 20 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a really long time. I came to this via a friend of mine in school where we took a trip and he painted some urukai back then. And I was totally into a lot of the rings at this time. and I asked him what's he doing and what's he up to. And he showed it to me. And I lived in Vienna back then. And he said, yeah, there's a games workshop. And they have these Lord of the Rings figures. And I convinced my mom to get me there ASAP. And yeah, that's how I started basically. And yeah, started with, what was it? Tau was my very first army because they didn't have at the time the start box for Tyranids. And so I started with the second thing I wanted, and that was Tau. Quite funny.
Okay, so I assume at that age, as early as young as you were, at the good old days, did you start playing competitively immediately, or were you just playing casually for a while?
I played casually for around, for around 5 years. And then I moved back to my hometown. And there I got in touch with one of my, at this time, best friends. His name was Thomas. And he told me, why don't you come to a tournament? And I didn't know at this time what's a tournament. And he said to me, basically there are many people playing a lot of games in a short time. And I was all into playing and trying out new stuff. And so I quickly got a hook to it due to the fact I simply wanted to play. The outcome was sideways, but I really wanted to play. And so I started playing tournament around 15, 14. And he always had to get because he was much older than me, Thomas, he had to get permission from my parents that I can travel with him to the tournaments around Austria. This was quite fun. And yeah, so it's developed in a very young age. It was really funny every time. And yeah.
Well, but sounds like you had a good time. You speak of it. Obviously, I can't see you because this is an audio recording, but it looks like you are actually smiling almost in your words.
Yeah, because I think the competitive side in a tournament is not that important. I like the fact on a tournament you visit a lot of people and old friends, and if you're playing a crisp game of Warhammer in the meantime, it's very much better. But the best part about is visiting or meeting friends again who normally you don't have a connection to, and that's nice. I really like this.
I agree with you there because it's it's very interesting to after the games end in a tournament or at least for that day you sit down at your dinner and you talk with what people do for work, and there are obviously some people who are in the hobby as a job itself like you and me,
Yeah,
but there are obviously some people who just come to the tournament as a more like they are accountants or police officers or teachers or some
yeah.
other random things, which is like, but we all have this thing in common, and it's a great way to connect with people from all across life and all across the globe itself.
Yes, completely. And this manifested in the very first in the old times ETC in Serbia, where I in Switzerland, where I attended as a Flames of War player. Was it Switzerland? I don't know.
If it was
Where I'm
if it was expensive, it was Switzerland.
yeah, possibly. Yeah. And there I met a professor from a university from England who I talked to 1 year ago for a manuscript I needed for a work. And it was really funny. So I asked his name, and he told me, yeah, his name was blah blah, and I recalled his name, and I asked you, aren't you the professor from the university there in England? And he said, yeah, I'm exactly that person. And so we met each other on a Flames of War tournament in Switzerland 2 years after. It was hilarious. We laughed, I think, 1 hour straight about this fact, and it was wonderful. It was really really wonderful, and that's the pinnacle of meeting people who are connected to in the hobby. It's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, it's so. And was that your first ETC, by the way?
Uh, yes. It was also a quite interesting story how I got into the ETC back then.
Mm-hmm.
I played a little tournament in Austria here back then, Warhammer Fantasy, and a friend of mine asked me, "Hey, Andreas, don't you want to participate in Flames of War in the ETC?" And huh? I know Flames of War, yeah, a little bit, but what's the ETC? And he told me, yeah, it's basically the World Championship. And I was, okay, fine. And he dragged me into the Flames of War things, and so I got started with it basically.
Uh, so it's and okay. So there is a story there which I want to get to. You said you were playing Warhammer Fantasy. Went to your first ETC as a Flames of War player. How does the story end with 40k?
Um, so we in Austria are, let's say, a small community where nearly everybody knows everybody on a certain degree, basically. So you know the faces, or you heard the name of a person. And in the older days, so I guess 10 years ago or 8 years ago, we all played everything. So I played back then Warhammer Fantasy, Flames of War, a little bit. I don't know. Bold Action wasn't out there, but Fantasy, 40k, and Flames, and basically all other or most of the tournament guys also played the same games. We had some specials with only guys playing 40k and and some guys only playing Warhammer Fantasy. But in total, you knew the person if from basically every game, and yeah. Um, so it translated then 2 years. I attended for the Flames of War team 2 years. That was I guess it was Switzerland, and then 2 times for Novi Sad. And um, I back then I was really good friends with the guys from 40k also, because we had we have a large 40k community in Austria, and so they were also good friends of mine. And at one day I asked the captain, "Hey, how can I join the team for 40k?" And so I got into the 40k team basically. And it evolved more and more, and now I'm the captain. It's a quite funny story, because at some point I didn't have any interests left for 40k, but it got enlivened basically from the application to the 40k team. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. There are a few questions that I would like to not
yeah.
skip. No, because you mentioned like you mentioned it was you mentioned your first ETC, then you mentioned how you got into the 40k team, and then you got your captaincy, which all of those are different topics I want to get into. First of all, your first tournament, your first international team tournament, although it was with Flames of War,
Yes.
what were you expecting, and what did the things you saw meet your expectations?
How? I My expectation from what my friends told me were, well, it's a large area where many people are playing,
That's not.
and it's sweaty and it's stinky, and that was my thinking of it, because I never saw anything different in Austria. It was always hot. There are always many people, and they were every time nice basically. And yeah, it's met, the expectations were met to certain degrees. Back then in Switzerland, it was quite nice, because Switzerland is a nice country. I recall the fact that the air condition in the hall in Switzerland was broken, and it was super hot and super sweaty.
As is tradition.
As it's tradition, yes. But yeah, basically, I couldn't figure the scale of the ETC back then, or now the WTC. There were so many people, and I thought, oh my, they're all playing with little plastic figures. Wow, that's awesome. And yeah, it was awesome. It was a little bit overwhelming at first, but quite nice. Yeah, quite nice, quite nice. And what can I say? Um,
No, no,
the
I think you explained quite well, because it's like
Yeah,
it's sometimes the messaging is a bit underwhelming when it comes to these tournaments, because
yeah,
people don't say it is. Maybe it's because it's hard to describe the actual feeling you get, and you see hundreds of players playing at the same time.
yeah.
That's not. That's a feeling that's a bit awe-inspiring, but that's a difficult to explain in words
Yes.
if you have never seen it.
In the ETC in Athens, was it? Where my parents accompanied me on the travel, because we stayed there a little bit longer to visit all the islands. And I showed them the hall, this stadium there where we were, on the strand. And they stood there and said to me, Andreas, wow, from my explanations, they couldn't figure what the event was like, and in Athens they saw it and they were mind blown. And
Uh,
now they have a picture in their head when I tell them, yeah, I'm traveling now to Mechelen, to Brussels, or to Novi Sad, or wherever each, and now they have a picture in their head. But back then in Athens, they were mind blown. They were they were silent and said, wow, that's wild, basically.
oh, there's some fireworks going on behind me, which is probably a wedding, which is whatever.
Yeah.
So that's actually very true, and I'll be honest. Although there were quite a bit of trouble in Athens in certain other regards, the this venue was actually pretty good, because you had to climb a few stairs before you saw everything else. So there was a suspense as well. As you come
Yes.
stairs and you look down and saw like 700 games.
Yeah,
7 players.
Athens was one of one of the loveliest memories, because the city itself was awesome, and and I don't know, I met so many old friends there in Athens, because after that somehow certain teams broke up and certain combinations of people weren't there anymore. Um, and Athens stayed in my memory for a really, really nice tournament. Also, I think one of the facts, also I liked it that much, there was iced coffee to get, and it was so hot outside, and I was a smoker back then, so I needed, for every cigarette I took, I needed an iced coffee, and every time it was a godsend thing, and I was so happy every time. Yeah, I think that was the main thing I remember.
Yeah,
And the
I,
food was great.
I made the mistake of getting a ice cream on my way back from lunch at one of those games. I was like,
Yeah.
the thing melted in the 300 meters it from the ice cream shop to the. It was literally dripping wet from my hand. I'm like, this is annoying. It's
Ah,
good but annoying at the same time.
yeah.
Okay,
It was was really quite funny. Athens was funny. Yeah.
uh, it was a memorable event.
Yeah. Also the one time in Salamanca was also quite memorable because of the bus trip we took from where was it?
I think
Barcelona?
Mar-
Or
Madrid would be the usual
Madrid.
call.
Yeah. Then the bus trip from there to Salamanca was also quite nice, because somehow everybody from Austria was in one bus, and that was quite funny.
Ah, nice. So all the teams from different
Yeah.
systems got
So
into the
yeah,
same bus.
and we knew each other, so everybody was, you're also here. Yeah, quite, yeah,
Yeah,
amusing.
it's usually those are the memories they stay with you. Like you might
Yeah.
remember some games, some of them escape me, but it's the adventure of aspect of the events that stay with you, and the
Yeah.
games almost become secondary.
Yes. It's the whole feeling, the travel, the people, the food, the everything, the is a part of the memory, and somehow the games itself are trivial, or the outcome of the games are trivial to what you see around the games. Huh?
Hmm.
And that's quite lovely, like this.
It's like it's that's why the how do I explain this? It's usually people are most hyped somehow when the tournament ends. It almost always we wanted to play more 40k, not 40k, but attend more events after we come
Hmm.
back. It's almost like an
Yes.
insatiable hunger.
Yes. Especially after the tournament, in every tournament, basically, the ideas of new stuff, the thinking of the next tournament, it's so intense after each tournament, and also after the WTC, the hype is the highest for the next WTC or the next ETC
Oh
back
yeah,
then. Yeah, it's every time the same. It's every time the same.
and it's by the we are recording this at the very last day of registrations, and it's
Yeah.
going. I can say this is going to be public knowledge in a few hours already. We are going to have 20. It looks like we're going to have 28 different teams this year. And
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty good actually when it comes to numbers. It's like, uh, it's going to be great. It's going to be very exciting. I'm already like, it's a lot of work, but
Mm.
I hope it's going to turn out great, and I hope it's going to be encourage more people to come. That way, we can create a truly global tournament where people come from every different, God knows where.
Yes. This would be truly awesome if we, not from every country, obviously, because that's not possible, but from everywhere around the globe would be really awesome. I saw something about Team India or something like this,
Uh,
Team China, Team Japan. That
yeah,
it would be awesome if the guys were there.
there is a like you said, the India is a bit shaky, but there's a team of Greater China that we are trying to essentially trying to find with the local expats who have been living there for several years. The Korean and the Japanese team are interested, but with the COVID measures are still affecting their travels and making things uncertain. The Argentinians used to show up, but for this year they can't, sadly. But we are. It looks like if we can encourage people in the correct way and make sure that this is not just going to be a regular old tournament. This is going to be an experience that they will keep with them forever. I think we can have a proper tournament with 40, 50 teams in just a few years, and it's going to be very nice.
Yeah.
I have... Okay, sorry. You were going to say something.
No. I thought it was simply a thought. It would be really, really nice to have so many different teams from different nations and origins to be presented in one part for a little hobby like playing with plastic soldiers and be united in one place and have one common thinking about playing a tournament or having fun, basically said.
Okay. There was one question before all this, getting us hyped between two of us, each other, and bouncing at that. How did you end up being the captain? Yeah, because that we skipped over. Okay, you entered the 40k team, yourself with Flames of War, then somehow got into 40k, but there is a missing link of, okay, at that point you become a captain. How?
Yeah. So so I got into the 40k team. Okay, fine. I was quite young. What, 24, something like that? I cannot remember it surely. But I was quite young, and I was in an age where I drank a lot. That everywhere I go, I drank. Okay, a lot of beer, and my attitude was back then really, really rude and loud. So I rarely lie to people, and I quickly tell them what's on my mind. And so also in 40k or tournament stuff for team events. So I was in the 40k team, and we had a little boot camp, and I told the people they are shit. Simply, I looked them in the face and said, okay, what we're trying to achieve? We all are shit. The lists are shit, the players are shit, everything is not good right here. And every time, basically. And I was really moody and loud, and oftentimes drunk. And where I was a problem in the team sometimes, the other people saw that I speak the truth. So they realized, oh yeah, the lists are not the best, that we are not playing good, and so on and so on. I didn't communicate it well, maybe really poorly or
You could
bad.
have been more diplomatic, but the
Yes,
message
exactly.
had a
And
kernel of truth in it.
yes, but they saw through my aggressions and realized, okay, I speak right things. And so I got in, you can say, a little inner circle of the team where we decided on, okay, we for the team things, okay, what lists we are bringing, and how are the trickles are looking, or what dice are we taking, and so on. And I was in charge of the pairings for the team, and my best friend Dominic was back then. You also remember it.
Dominic
Dominic
Tavan.
was the captain. Yes, Tavanaro. Yes,
Yeah.
he is my best friend. And
Good. You said it well, because it was like you said it like oh, we got fallen out.
everything is fine, and we are still best friends. Woohoo! And after 1 year, he was the captain. He told me, Andreas, everything is shit. I don't want to be captain anymore. I simply want to be a player. And I said, okay, well then, what do we do now? And he said to me, yeah, well, you are the captain now. That's your job. And I said, oh hell no. And so I become the captain of Team Austria. Yeah.
So, so essentially, just you you can criticize us. You are correct. So have fun with it. Fix the shit. Fix what's
Yes,
broken.
yes, exactly. And this was really a quite fun experience at the first, because I thought, well, it's basically the same but different. But then I quickly realized, yeah, I have to be a little bit more nice to people to get through them. And yeah, so I started to um, get rid of my attitude basically. And um, although I'm quite a competitive player and I really love winning games, I tried to chill out about losing, or um, get not that pumped up if one of my teammates had a bad game. And that was really important for my attitude. And yeah, so I fixed my attitude basically, and now I'm, well, let's say a little bit less moody and a little bit less aggressive. And I also stopped the the large amounts of beer drinking on tournaments.
Ah,
um, and yeah, that's how I got captain, and will do until somebody else wants to do it.
this was after 2019 then, or was it
Hmm?
before? Were you captain in the last event in
Yes.
2019? No.
Yeah, should be. Yes.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, no, because it's I. Although we had a captain's contact list, I'll be honest with you, I didn't keep fully track of who the captains were in each system.
Mm,
This is pre WTC days. So, can you tell me about how you pick your, like, first of all, actually, before how you pick your team, can you
yeah.
tell me about the community in Austria, like how big it is, how for competitive and in general when it comes to 40k?
Yes. So in regards to 40k, we in Austria we have quite a large community in total. Really a lot of players, but most of them are nice home players who have a little beer and a pretzel or something like this to their game, and play for fun. And for the tournament season, or how do you call it, there are around, let's say, 40 to 50 players, where are, yeah, 30 really active or 20 really active, who you see at every tournament in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And the others are occasionally there. So we have uh, little land groups like Carinthia or Styria or Vienna. And basically, the Carinthian guys will stay in Carinthia, the Vienna guys will stay in Vienna, and so on. And yeah, that's the community thing. So there are really a lot of guys there, and um, but not on tournaments. And because it's most commonly because known in Austria, yeah, you don't play tournaments because there are only assholes there, and that's a thing from the past. But well, it's a stigma we have to bear. Um, and
It's that's a bit of a hard perception to change if that takes hold.
yeah,
You sadly you don't need that many people to have that perception, even if it's only one in, let's say, 50 players. In
yeah,
a
yeah, it
in
could
a
ruin everything.
in a
Yeah.
5 round tournament, it means that that player will play against 5 different people. It means that 10% of the tournament will play against an asshole, which means that 10% of the community will, and they will talk with their friends, obviously, about how the competitive players are an asshole. I don't want to go again. So
Yes,
not
yes,
not
yes.
not ideal. Okay.
And yeah, that was one of the problems. Nowadays, Kevin, you know him, is
Mm-hmm.
really into organizing tournaments and larger scale tournaments all around Austria. who are
I, I
encouraging people to participate, basically, and that's really, really nice.
I'm aware of that fact. Yes.
Yeah, I know. And this is a really, really nice thing. So I see right now in time a surge of players who are participating in tournaments. Um, locally in Austria, and I hope the spark will go over to participating in international tournaments. For example, maybe attending a little tournament in Germany or in Italy or last weekend there was a tournament in Slovenia in
Mm-hmm.
Ljubljana where some of my guys attended. It was really, really fun, and thank you on Dejan for this, who invited us there.
Who's actually
And
pictured in one of the slideshows right now.
ooh.
Just that coincidentally, he's there. So,
Nice, nice,
yeah,
nice,
that's
nice.
not.
And it was really funny, and yeah, I hope some more players or tournament enthusiasts will see the benefits and the fun in going out of your own country and visiting other nations to play there, because you learn so much from them. You learn new metas. You learn new armies, new guys or girls, and it's really nice. It's really, really nice to go outside and see other things. Yeah,
Uh, for
and
sure.
for the team, well, the team in Austria is quite a challenge, you can say. So, um,
That,
basically, we have around 6 guys who really wanted to participate. uh, let's say 4 years ago, for example. And some of them stick and some of them get away. So then
mm-hmm.
I was tasked to form a team for this year. Okay, very well, I said. I asked the guys who were interested and asked around, and on some tournaments I asked the TO if I can speak a little bit to the guys in front of them, and so I had around, what was it, around 12 people willingly to participate in the WTC.
Those
And
suckers.
sorry.
Those suckers.
Yes, those suckers, yeah. And then after we heard, okay, fine, the WTC will start in Mechelen. Um, some guys said, "Oh no, that's too expensive." It was a thing in our it was a thing, and so I had basically 8 guys left. So there was not really a selection of players. I simply had 8 guys, also with me, 8 guys on the hand, and that's that. That was the team. So the selection process was really quite easy.
Yeah, it
A-
it looks
and
like it was a very like thorough process where everything was
yes,
considered very well.
yes. So um, I had around, yeah, 7 guys who I wanted in my team, and all 7 of them are now in the team, and so everything is fine. And yeah, I'm quite happy about it. And due to the fact that we are all our friends, because of the size from Austria, we know each other, yeah?
Hmm.
And so we all are good friends to each other, and therefore I'm looking forward to the WTC because it's a great trip with 7, or in our case 8 other guys. Really nice.
And so you do have a coach with you then?
Yes, exactly. Mark will participate as as a coach. Yeah.
Okay. So how about your, let's say, your strength as a team? I mean, obviously the selection process was not as
As
didn't have
crisp as other teams had
no
it.
didn't no, I would have said didn't have a numerous player pool to pick from,
Yes.
but I, I'll be honest. So like some of the people who I saw in Austria when I was in the Alpine Cups there. Like the people I would say who are dedicated players are not bad. They're quite capable. So
Yes.
how would you rate your team in general? Like, do you think Austria has uh, a decent shot in the rankings? I'm not saying if you're playing with top three, which I don't. I think it would be a nice surprise if you win the event. But where do you see yourself as a team?
Oh, that's a difficult thing because simply from skill, I would say, well, yes, we could play with every other nation, and we have a good we can play against them and not get mobbed up by them. But the problem here is um, the practice thing. So due to the fact that we are a small country, we don't have many tournaments or many occasions to play in a larger scale. So the whole getting used to, for example, playing against Rex from Drukari, for example, or playing against Tyranids, or playing against Elder. Um, this thing is something we don't have. For a little example,
Hmm.
you know the Gene Stealer cult army. It
I'm awa-
dropped,
I'm aware of its existence. Yes.
yeah. The very first book dropped some years ago.
Hmm.
And until today, this day, I never played once against Gene Stealer cults. I have absolutely no clue.
That's interesting because even though, like, you didn't even encounter them in the ETCs then.
No, I simply dodged it every tournament. Not from my intention, but I really never played against them in a way. I had some boot games. So on a boot camp where we played each other, I played against them to see, okay, that's theoretically how they are played. I know all of their rules because I read through the codex and I built some armies. So I know in principle everything they're doing. But I have absolutely no fucking clue how a opponent from France or opponent from Germany would play them.
Well,
And
you're in for a surprise. I'll tell you that, especially with G Steelers.
yeah, exactly. And I'm looking forward to never play against them in the future.
So okay,
And
but
this is the thing about Austria. We have because we have that small of a community. Obviously, the pool of armies we are facing is quite limited. If you think about a 30-man tournament, which in our scale is quite large, you
mhm.
see around, yeah, for example, 10 Space Marine players. You see maybe 2 orc players, 3 elder things, and so on and so on, and then there's the tournament. So in most cases we have 1 or 2 guys on one army, and to face them you have to get lucky. And in most of the times, um, um, the participants of my team are rather on top of the tournament settings, so we face each other, and yeah, we are playing our armies. So for example, I commonly played the Atmech in Austria. I was the Atmech guy in Austria. Before then I was the elder guy in Austria. uh, Dominic, for example, was the Thousand Suns guy. And it's not a little local thing for a city. It's an Austrian thing for our perspective, and that's something um, we have to. That's our one of our greatest weaknesses, you can say, the diversity of armies and players we are facing. So our uh, how is it called? Our knowledge
Mhm.
in facing certain armies is quite limited, or limited to seeing tournament reports from other tournaments. uh, and that's one of our weaknesses, and yeah, that's, I think, the most common weakness in the team. And for our strengths, because you asked me, well, um, um,
Okay.
um, what is the strength of the Austrian team? Well, basically, it's the power of friendship who bonds us all together, and this is really nice. So
If you didn't
I,
make the R, it would have gone much better. But I'm not
nah,
cutting that out,
it's
by the way.
yeah, it's completely fine. And now I think this is really one of the greatest strengths in Austria, because we are all our friends. We
Hmm.
can tolerate a loss of a player. Nah? I heard so many stories about teams who have internal crises, about players losing, or players wanting to be something different, or players wanting to become captain, and so on and so on. I had so many stories about them internally, and um, that's a thing we don't have. uh, if somebody loses, well, fine, then he loses. Okay, fine. If somebody is in a bad mood, okay, he's in a bad mood. He's tomorrow fine again, and so on. So this is a thing, we all can rely on each other, and that's a great thing to have. That's a great thing. We are now in total 9 guys, and I can completely rely on these on the other 8 guys, and that's really nice.
Oh, that's actually quite fortunate because
Yeah.
just like you said, it's maybe it's the general nerdness of ourselves, or just a specific more 40k, or even just a more specific international 40k team tournament thing. But it's quite common than actual life that there are dramas within a team. There has
Yes.
been cases where teams have dropped mid tournament. Obviously, that that was almost a decade ago at this point. But
Mm.
it's there were genuine arguments about, oh, you paired me incorrectly, or you did this mistake, you did that mistake. That's about hearing Austrian team and how you guys can handle such things. That's good to hear because that's something that I would wish on every other team.
Yes. Yes. I can imagine there's a lot of bad blood, because certain countries have a large scale filtering process to get to their team. For example, France or America. They have so many people who want to attend to the WTC, where the process to get to the team is there's so much bad blood on the process if you're really a competitive on the edge guy, and I can see that there is inevitably a conflict occurring, and that's really a nice thing from our team. Everybody, yeah, is a good friend with each other, so this is really fine.
Yeah.
um, and yeah. Oh, and one other strength.
Mm-hmm.
Haha. Now I have to bolster myself a little bit. Although we don't have the skilliest of skilliest players, or a lot of players, but we have the Austrian wealth on our side, so we can buy every army we need. So if Warhammer 40k will devolve into a pay-to-win game, haha, there's Austria. Uh-huh.
I mean,
There's Austria.
it has somewhat devolved
Yeah,
into a play.
we had a Discord call on Tuesday, yeah, or Monday, one of these 2 days. Yeah, it's this week, and one of my closing statements was, "Oh well, don't worry, guys. If you want to build an army, don't worry. We have the figures. Just build it like you want. We have them. We don't need to buy them. We have them in our home." This was one of my closing keywords to say, and that's quite funny. We That's really funny. Although we are not the best, and if you look at the rankings, we are not the best team. And if you say, okay, there are 28 people participating, uh, I'm I would be really happy if we reach top 14, so the half, or if we simply reach top 20, it would be nice. It would be accomplishment, yeah. But the simple process in participating is much more worth to us than have a high number in rankings.
Oh, I actually agree with you. It's like there is no Turkey team this year, so I'm only going to be there as a TL. But
Yeah.
it's almost like we started this conversation with, the tournament doesn't become trivial, but it almost becomes secondary amongst
Yes.
every other thing. Which is, I'll be honest with you, which is not the case with all the teams. I've just spoken with the German captain last week,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually is not happy about this attitude of you and I, that which shouldn't be that surprising. But he's
Well,
like,
at first he should form his team, then he can speak. What? What? I didn't say that.
now you can say that to his face. Actually, they
Yeah,
don't.
I will.
They,
I will.
they don't
And
even
then I
have.
will go to Simon and David, who are then the coaches, and I will laugh with them about him. Ah, nah.
Actually,
There's no
they
bad.
no,
There's no bad blood between German and Austria. I want to make it clear. I love those guys. I love them really, and they are great guys.
oh they yeah
Well, most of them.
they are not as worse or better than any other community in
Nah,
general.
everything is fine. Basic. I in the WTC or ETC context now, I rarely met a bad person. Sometimes a little bit too try hard, sometimes attitude I don't like, but in most cases, most of the guys, awesome guys.
Yeah, it's what I wanted to get with the German team is, there are some teams not as like openly hostile, but they approach the tournament as a tournament first, and
Mm-hmm.
social function second, and there are
Yeah.
some other teams that approach the social function first and tournament second. So that's actually quite interesting to see in the contrast. I mean, for
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this is almost like as interesting to see like the financial contrast, because this is an example I bring in almost every interview. Luxembourg and Switzerland teams, their problems are not financial. They don't
Yeah.
really care about the tournament being wherever. They're like, their problems are usually finding the players themselves, and I can't imagine I would have had the same problem as them if I didn't have the financial constraints, which is
Yes.
so. And some other, and these are obviously very different to some other countries' troubles, like you mentioned France or America, which have to pick from hundreds of willing and capable players to make a team of eight, uh, or even England, which probably thousands of players who would
Yeah.
take the spot.
Yeah. England is huge. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I think in certain cases you see the scale of the country is detriment to how the team is in certain ways. I see large countries simply performing much more better due to the fact that they have more people who can choose from,
mhm.
and the spirit there is another. Uh, Obviously, we also want to win. It's not funny to get slapped 5 times or 6 times in the face as a team. Obviously, we want to win sometimes, but we are realistic enough. If we are facing the Polish team or the France team or the Team England or Team America, we are really realistically enough to realize, well, if we draw against them, that's a win in our book. And on the in the Alpine Cup, both of our teams, so Team Goldständer and my team, played against the French team, and it was really funny to play against them. But obviously, we got a little bit smacked in the face.
Yeah,
But it was still quite funny to play.
it's that's always an interesting thing as well, where some teams, like individual members, obviously, are quite different when it comes to the attitude on non-WTC tournaments, but
Mm,
like they might get a bit more, let's say, reserved when in their attitudes and become more competitive in the WTC itself, which is, I think it's because of the national aspects and the responsibility of where the community in general gives to their players as, okay, you have taken one of the very limited 8 spots, you are
yeah,
representing your country, and we expect you to perform. We expect you to do well and make yourself, your team, and your country proud almost. There's like a, it's not a, not even, it doesn't have to be any national aspect either where like, oh, it's Vive la France or something. No, it's just
mm,
that there's literally a psychological difference between a regular team tournament like the Alpine Cup, although like I don't want to toot my own horn. It is a very nice and very competitive tournament in itself. The
uh,
WTC is another ballpark.
yeah. It's simply something different. In something like the Alpine Cup, you can participate with your friends,
Mm-hmm.
and on the WTC, you have to you have to be good to get in the team, and obviously, therefore, you have to perform more competitively than you normally will, or have another mindset than normal, because you receive the spots differently. Yeah. And I understand it completely if people are different to normal on the WTC. I understand it quite a lot, and yeah, I think I was the same. I was the same where I was only a member of the team. I got really beaten up about the fact that some of my teammates were losing their games, where I tried to perform as good as I possibly could and get as many points as I possibly could, and then saw that my performance was irrelevant at this time because all other teammates were losing, basically. And this is, yeah, I can understand everybody who is eager to win the games on a format like the WTC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and obviously it's it's a different aspect, not just on the final team result, but especially if your game is going bad. Even if your game is going bad, you might be the difference between victory and draw or draw and loss. Even if you get only lose 1-19 compared to a 0-20, which
Yeah.
is like in a singles tournament, if your half your army is wiped out in turn one, you would obviously just concede. But in the WTC, you stick it out. You play until the end of turn five.
Yes.
Maybe you don't lose as bad, and you can get 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, exactly. And these 1 or 2 points are often the tip to swing to swing the team performance over. Where 80 points is where's the cap right now? 85 or
It's
80?
86-74 is the victory
Yeah,
loss.
and the 1 or 2 points in the spectrum of 8 games are insanely high value, and yeah, so this is obviously something different on a normal tournament. uh, you are there for a great time and don't want to get slapped from a, I don't know, from a Tyranid player at the time, or at this time, and you shake his hands and then go for a beer. But in the WTC, there is the theoretical possibility to get points, so you will try it. And
Yeah.
it's a completely different mentality there, because 7 other people hang in there for the same amount of time, for the same amount of effort as you put in, and obviously you don't want to let them down. Also, it's also a big part.
Oh, and it's the moment is magical when you're playing yourself, and then you are concentrated in your game. You haven't looked up for half an hour, and then you look up, and 7 of your team members are standing behind you,
Yeah.
and you are the last
Wow.
game, and
Yeah.
they tell you, oh, you have to get this score for a victory, and you're like, Oh, you are not under pressure. Then you're both under pressure and you're both excited at the same time.
Yes, yes, completely. I recall in Novi Sad back then, where I played Flames of War. I recall that I played a really tense game about losing or drawing the game, and I was so into the game. I didn't saw anything else around me, and like you said, at the end of the game. It was a draw. I was really happy about the draw. And I looked up and I saw all of my teammates around me, a little bit scattered, but all around me. And they looked me in the eyes and asked me what was my result. And I said, a draw. And everybody cheered and
Yeah.
was happy. And I, what's going on? And they told to me, yeah, now we won the round. And I said, what? Whoa! And it was awesome. It was so awesome, this feeling. And to to have uh, yeah did something for my team in and it was an awesome feeling. It was really nice. And this is a feeling I want to translate in everything we do,
Mhm.
that everything happens in the team is a team effort, and to encourage a good feeling on the tournament. Yeah.
No, that's a good goal, and like I said, those memories stay with you forever in your 40K
Yes,
life.
yes, 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 yes. Obviously.
Okay.
And these are good memories, really good memories.
Yeah, obviously will be some less exciting memories of where you lost the game in a similar way
Mhm.
to, and the other team cheered, but it's just a fact of those are just a fact of life. Which is, I mean, in our game, if somebody wins, usually somebody else loses, which is
Yeah.
what it is. Uh, but so we are sort of reaching the end of our time, and
Yes.
I have one bonus question for you before that, do you have any shout outs to anybody, or do you want to drop any links or something, which will all be linked in the
Uh,
description below as well?
um, yes. I have some shoutouts to my friends, but first off, to the link thing, as you saw in the last days,
Mhm.
we are not that social media friendly.
Yeah, I try.
So
It was difficult for me to find pictures like these. Pictures had to be the pictures that are rotating behind had to be extracted by people who were there. There's no social media presence, which is not great. Which is like I.
yes, this is also a thing Kevin is tasked for, or I didn't tell him about it, but
So he.
maybe he hears the podcast, so now he knows that we need some sort of place where we can do internet things on. Um, yeah, that's one of our tasks to do. That I can say, oh yeah, visit this site to get in touch with me or something like this. So I don't have anything for media presentation or something like this, but I wanted to shout out to uh, some of my friends or some of my team colleagues who couldn't participate this year on the WTC because of personal reasons. For example, Alex Pitl is his name. He is a really, really dear friend of mine. Um, and it was not possible for him to come because of certain life things. And um, yeah, also I want to shout out my team, who is who are awesome guys, lovely fellas, and obviously, I have to say uh, thank you to my coach Mark, who is also our water boy, our supply boy, our information boy. He he makes Excel sheets for us for pairing or something like this, and uh, sometimes he kicks us in the ass if we don't hurry up with certain things. So, and he is our funny meme guy who every time keeps a smile on our face. So, Mark, woo, yeah.
Shout out to Mark. Okay, Dan. My final question. This is more of a market research than anything else.
Yeah.
But can you describe your ideal WTC for me?
The ideal WTC.
There's no.
I so I'm a really lazy person. So obviously the best WTC for me would be to be here in Graz or in Austria, where I have to travel an hour to get there, and that's that. But for me, uh, I really enjoyed and will enjoy the journeys to travel to certain countries in Europe or anywhere else on the world to participate in this event. So I think my ideal WTC will be, it should stay in some ways the same, maybe get a little bit cheaper, but that's another thing. I know COVID was a demon there, and the only thing I really want to improve for the WTC is the food on the tournament. It was nearly every time really shit. And this is the only thing, because the hotels were nice, the people were nice, the the drinking situation was also really nice. Um, every time I visited a different country, I saw something new. I met new people. I bond new friends. Every time it was awesome. The only thing was what was continuously bad was the food on the tournament platform itself.
Even
So
in
the
Salamanca.
Salamanca, I cannot recall it. I think that was the one the one tournament where I didn't took the food coupons, where I tried to get food myself. I think that was that time, because before, where were we before that? Athens, or?
Athens, yes.
Yeah, and in Athens, I found a bone in my chicken food, and that disgusted me that much that I thought, okay, fuck that shit. I will not get a coupon for Salamanca, so I passed on that. And yeah, this is, I think, the only thing I wanted to change.
Okay.
Um,
That's
eh,
a reasonable request, and uh,
yeah.
it is noted. And actually, we are trying to find out a very good food option at
Yeah,
still.
this, because everything else is and obviously that the air condition will work.
Oh yeah.
This
Oh,
is also something I'm looking forward.
that's not much of a problem in Belgium.
Yeah,
So it's like, and we are in a very big venue, so it shouldn't be a problem. I hope.
yeah, it should work. Um, but as then, um, I appreciate, so now that I'm the captain's in the captain's council for, and I can read all the messages. I see certain problems. I see certain things who can occur, but basically I'm fine with everything. Um, and yeah, I'm in the most parts I'm really fine, and yeah, I hope the future WTCs will get, yeah, better. Simply learn on the mistakes, nah? And if the mistakes don't glow up in our faces, everything is fine. And I hope this will continue for many years.
Oh, that's a very positive message to end the episode on, and I'll do that before I say something wrong and fuck everything up. Thanks for coming on. This was a very nice chat, and I hope I'll get to have you on sometime either sooner to the WTC or just after it to get your opinions about how things
Yeah,
went.
yeah, absolutely no problem. I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for coming on, and thanks to everybody who listened. There won't be much show notes this time because there's Team Austria apparently sucks in social media, but you you will be able to see them at the WTC. And thanks again for everybody for listening. Have a nice evening.
Bye.